February 13th, 2017, Delphi, Indiana. A town small enough that strangers stand out. A place where trails feel safe because they have always been safe. It was a Monday afternoon. School was out for the day. The sky was pale. The air cold but manageable. Liberty German and Abigail Williams walked toward the Monon High Bridge. They weren't sneaking away. They weren't breaking rules. They were doing what teenagers do in small towns, looking for something to do. The bridge stretches high above Deer Creek, old railroad tracks, weathered wooden planks, gaps wide enough to expose the drop below. Crossing it requires focus. You don't run across that bridge. You don't move casually. Each step is deliberate. Halfway across, there are no guardrails, no easy exit points, no quick escape. From that height, the world feels distant. The girls took a photo. In the image, one of them stands on the tracks, smiling, relaxed, balanced. Nothing in that moment suggests danger. But sometime after that photo was taken, they noticed someone behind them. A man, far enough away to appear harmless, close enough to be aware of. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't rushing. He was walking, steady, hands inside his jacket pockets, head slightly lowered. Closing distance. Liberty lifted her phone, not dramatically, not in panic. Quietly, she pressed record. The video shows him approaching. Blue jacket, jeans, a cap pulled low. There is nothing cinematic about him, nothing exaggerated. He looks like someone you might pass on a trail without thinking twice. And that normalcy is what unsettles people most. Because predators rarely announce themselves. The footage is brief, blurry, unstable, but the audio is clear. Guys, down the hill, for words, calm, controlled, unhurried. It doesn't sound frantic. It doesn't sound loud. It sounds certain. That was the last clear moment captured. They recorded him, they captured his voice, and for years, that was all the world had. To understand why that recording matters so deeply, you have to understand the setting. Delphi is not a city built on anonymity. It is a place where people recognize vehicles, where families know each other across generations, where danger feels abstract, something that happens somewhere else. The Monon High Bridge Trail had always been part of that comfort, a scenic stretch of path, a place for photos, for walking, for escaping routine. But the bridge itself is deceptive. It is high, nearly 70 feet above the creek in some areas. The wooden planks are uneven. Some are spaced apart. Some shift slightly underweight. Crossing it forces vulnerability. You must watch your feet. You must maintain balance. And when you are focused on balance, your attention narrows. You are not scanning your surroundings constantly. You are not preparing to run. From the middle of the bridge, your options are limited. Forward means continuing across unstable boards. Backward means retracing steps toward whoever is behind you. Sideways is not an option. Below is a steep descent. It is not a place built for confrontation. That afternoon, the trees were bare. Winter had stripped the area of cover. Sound carries differently in that kind of landscape. Footsteps echo against wood. Wind moves through branches. Small noises feel amplified. If someone was approaching behind you, you would hear them before you saw them clearly. Which means there was likely a moment, a subtle shift, when the girls became aware they were no longer alone. Not because he spoke, but because he kept coming. He did not turn around. He did not hesitate. He continued. And in a place like that, distance closes slowly but deliberately. Psychologically, isolation changes perception. On a crowded street, a stranger behind you is normal. On a narrow bridge suspended above water, with no easy exit, that same presence feels different. The setting removed options. It reduced space. It created a funnel. And in that funnel, control belongs to whoever is least afraid. Somewhere between the photo they took and the moment Liberty pressed record, the atmosphere changed. From casual to alert, from relaxed to uncertain. And uncertainty, on a structure like that, does not feel temporary. It feels immediate. The bridge did not create the crime, but it created the conditions. Height, isolation, limited escape, and a man who kept walking forward. When Liberty German pressed record, she was not documenting a crime. She was responding to instinct. There is a moment in threatening situations where the body understands danger before the mind fully accepts it. It is subtle, a shift in breathing, a tightening in the chest, an awareness that something is not aligned. The man behind them had not run, he had not shouted, he had simply continued. That persistence matters. Predators often rely on normal pacing. No sudden movements, no obvious signals, just gradual intrusion into personal space. The video begins mid-motion. Camera is angled slightly downward, as if Liberty was trying not to make it obvious she was filming. The frame captures him walking along the tracks, hands inside his jacket pockets. That detail stands out, hands hidden, not swinging naturally. Not visible, concealed. His shoulders are relaxed, his steps steady. There is no hesitation in his stride. He does not appear uncertain about direction. He appears certain of it. The bridge forces careful movement. Each wooden plank is uneven. Some are cracked. Some spaced apart enough to expose the drop below. Crossing it requires attention to balance. Yet he moves with confidence. Not reckless, but comfortable. That comfort is what unsettles people, because it suggests familiarity with the bridge, with the terrain, with the situation unfolding. The video lasts only seconds, but psychologically, seconds expand under stress. For the girls, time likely slowed. Sound sharpens in moments like that. Footsteps become louder. Wind feels colder. The space between you and someone else feels measurable. The footage ends before we see escalation, but the audio continues. Guys. Down the hill, there is no strain in his voice, no urgency, no raised pitch. It is a directive, short, controlled, delivered as if he expects compliance. Tone reveals more than volume. A panicked person sounds unpredictable. An angry person sounds explosive. He sounded neither. He sounded composed. And composure, in that context, signals intent. The phrase itself is minimal. For words, no elaboration. No threats audible in that moment. Which implies something critical. He believed he did not need to explain. He believed authority alone was enough. That confidence is psychologically significant. It suggests preparation, even if only mental preparation. The absence of visible weapon in the footage adds to the unease. There is no immediate display of force, which means control may have been established through proximity and command. When Liberty pressed record, she was documenting uncertainty. But what she captured became evidence of certainty. The certainty in his voice, the certainty in his direction, the certainty in his approach. When investigators released the image publicly, people fixated on appearance, height, build, clothing, but audio analysis often focuses on cadence, the rhythm of speech, the pauses between words. In that clip, there is no stumble, no hesitation. He speaks as though the next step is already determined. And perhaps that is what makes the recording so haunting. It does not capture violence, it captures control. the last seconds of safety before irreversible change. The human brain struggles with incomplete sequences. When footage cuts off before outcome, imagination fills the gap, and imagination can be more vivid than evidence. Millions listen to those for words over and over, trying to hear something hidden inside them, an accent that would give him away, a tremor that would expose fear, a crack in composure. But what remained most noticeable was calm. And calm, under those circumstances, feels deliberate. Liberty's decision to record him altered the trajectory of the case. Without that footage, investigators would have been working in darkness. With it, they had a silhouette, a gait, a voice. But evidence does not equal resolution. The recording became both advantage and burden. It offered visibility. And yet, for years, it did not produce a name. The bridge gave him a stage. The phone gave him a voice. And the world was left replaying those seconds, trying to understand how control can sound so quiet. When the girls were reported missing that evening, the initial assumption was simple. They were delayed. Maybe their phones had died. Maybe they lost track of time. Search efforts began before panic fully set in. Family members called out their names. Friends joined in. Flashlights moved across trails that had felt harmless only hours earlier. The next day, their bodies were discovered near Deer Creek. From that moment forward, Delphi stopped being ordinary. The bridge was no longer a place for photos. It became a dividing line, before and after. Law enforcement responded quickly. Local police, Indiana State Police, the FBI. The area was secured, evidence collected, interviews conducted. And then something rare in cases like this happened. Investigators confirmed they had video and audio of the suspect. The public release of the still image changed everything. The man on the bridge was no longer an unknown rumor. He was visible. Blurry, but visible. He became a face people searched for in crowds. At gas stations, at grocery stores, at church. The voice clip followed. Guys, down the hill. News outlets replayed it repeatedly. The phrase echoed beyond Indiana, across the country. Tips flooded in, thousands of them. Neighbors called about neighbors. Co-workers called about co-workers. Family members called about relatives. Every man with a similar build suddenly felt scrutinized. And yet, despite the visibility, there was no immediate arrest. Years passed. Press conferences were held. Investigators spoke carefully, sometimes directly addressing the killer, saying he might be hiding in plain sight, saying he may have told someone, saying that conscience could weigh heavy. The language grew more psychological, less procedural, more emotional. In 2019, a new sketch was released. It looked different from the original, younger, sharper features. The shift created confusion. Was the first sketch wrong? Had witnesses misremembered? Were investigators pivoting? Officials insisted the new image was the correct focus. They said they were closer than ever. But public perception had already begun to fracture. Because the evidence felt tangible, the voice was clear, the image existed. And still, the space between identification and arrest stretched. For a small town, prolonged uncertainty changes daily life. Strangers feel different. Familiar faces feel questionable. Parents become more protective. Routine becomes cautious. The case did not disappear from headlines. It remained visible. And visibility without resolution creates a different kind of tension, not explosive panic, but slow erosion. The unsettling thought lingered. If he was recorded, if he was broadcast, how was he still unknown? The bridge stood unchanged. The recording circulated online. The man in the image continued walking endlessly across screens, frozen in that moment. While de real person behind it moved freely somewhere else. The gap between what was known and what could be proven grew heavier with time, and in that gap, confidence quietly weakened. In October 2022, more than 5 years after the murders, an arrest was finally announced. Richard Allen, a name that had not dominated headlines before, not a drifter, not someone passing through town. A local man, living in Delphi, working a regular job, going about daily routines. That detail changed the psychological weight of the case, because distance is easier to process. A stranger from far away feels abstract. A neighbor does not. According to court documents, Allen admitted he had been on the bridge that day. He placed himself at the scene. He acknowledged being there. He acknowledged seeing the girls. But he denied involvement in their deaths. That overlap, presence without confession, is psychologically complex. He was there. They recorded someone. The recording exists. And yet, the path from presence to proof was not immediate. Neighbors described him as quiet, unremarkable, not someone who drew attention, which mirrors the man in the video, the steady walk, the controlled tone, the lack of visible urgency. Nothing in the footage screams chaos. It whispers composure. Psychologically, the most unsettling offenders are not explosive. They are compartmentalized. They move between roles, employee, neighbor, customer, and somewhere beneath that, a separate layer. Compartmentalization allows contradiction. It allows a person to exist in two realities simultaneously, one public, one concealed. If he is the man in the video, then he heard his own voice broadcast repeatedly. He heard those for words, replayed on national television. He saw the silhouette circulated online. And for years, he continued living. That possibility unsettles people deeply, because it suggests not panic, not recklessness, but patience. Patience requires emotional regulation, control, the ability to endure. Scrutiny without collapse. The bridge recording captures a man who appears calm. The years that followed suggest someone who remained calm, that continuity matters. There is no visible transformation in the footage. No dramatic shift from normal to violent, just steady progression. Predatory behavior is often misimagined as chaotic. In reality, it can be methodical. It can rely on environment, on opportunity, on moments where isolation intersects with access. The bridge that afternoon offered isolation, limited exits, height, vulnerability. If someone was familiar with that terrain, they would understand how restricted movement becomes halfway across. The question that unsettles people is not only what happened. It is how long the alleged offender moved unnoticed afterward. He was not hiding in wilderness. He was not fleeing the country. He was present, in town, within reach of the same community that was grieving. That proximity transforms fear into something more intimate, because it suggests that danger does not always look different. It can look routine, ordinary, predictable, the gap between the image on the bridge and the person, described by neighbors, is where discomfort settles. We often expect monsters to appear monstrous, but the footage offered something else. A man in a jacket, walking, speaking calmly, and walking away. If he is responsible, then the most disturbing element is not just the act. It is the coexistence, the ability to separate the bridge from daily life, the ability to hear his own recorded voice and continue forward. That level of internal division is difficult to reconcile, because it forces a question many prefer not to ask. How much of what we see in others is surface, and how much remains hidden until the moment control reveals itself? Time moved forward. Delphi continued. Seasons changed. Leaves returned to the trees. The creek kept flowing beneath the bridge. But the recording did not fade. It remained for words. Preserved in digital permanence. Guys, down the hill, for years, that voice represented a question, not an answer. People memorized it, analyzed it, heard it late at night through headphones, trying to detect something hidden, a tremor, a crack, a clue. But the tone remained the same, calm, steady, unrushed. And that calmness became part of the fear, because calmness implies control. The bridge still stands, weathered wood, open gaps, height above water. Visitors walk across it now, knowing what happened. There, a knowledge changes space. What once felt scenic now feels heavy. You cannot stand in the middle of that bridge without imagining distance closing behind you. You cannot hear footsteps onward without remembering the recording. Justice, as a legal process, moves differently than grief. Arrests come with documents, with procedures, with courtrooms. But emotional timelines stretch longer. The question many carried was not only who did it, it was how long he walked freely afterward. How? Many mornings did he wake up without consequence? How many evenings did he return home as headlines replayed his voice? If he is responsible, then the most disturbing element is not only what happened that day. It is the duration between the recording and the arrest. 5 years. 5 years where the image existed publicly, where the audio circulated nationwide, where the silhouette became iconic in true crime culture. And yet, the identity remained unconfirmed. In small communities, trust is quiet but powerful. When something like this happens, that trust fractures subtly. Strangers feel closer. Neighbors feel less certain. Normal routines feel slightly altered. Not dramatically, but permanently. The bridge became a symbol, not just of violence, but of vulnerability. Because the recording proves something rare. They saw him, they heard him, they documented him. And still, time passed. The unsettling truth is not that evil hides in shadows. It is that sometimes it stands in daylight, walks steadily, speaks calmly, and leaves without resistance. The footage did not capture the full crime, but it captured enough to change perception. It captured composure, and composure under those circumstances feels deliberate. Some cases end with resolution, others end with lingering doubt. Delphi carries both, an arrest and unanswered questions about time. Delay, about how long control can remain intact before consequence arrives. The bridge still creaks under careful steps. The creek still runs below. But the space between those wooden planks now holds memory. And memory does not fade as easily as evidence.